Hi friends, seeing my previous videos on the Indian Ocean region, I am sure you would have understood the importance of this area for our country, and with China trying to dominate this area, it had woven its string of pearls, taking Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh into its web of deceit. But then our military and our diplomatic ties and methods have won over all this by being a real help to these small little nations which China is trying to engulf. Maldives has fallen into its trap, but not the other nations. Sri Lanka is one of the major players in this area and one of our oldest allies. Our ties go back to more than 2500 years. Even in the epic Ramayana, Sri Lanka has been mentioned, and it is divided only by the Palk Strait. It has got a lot of Tamils which have gone over and are staying, and though in this relation there were slight bitternesses when in the civil war IPKF had gone, and this decision was taken without consulting the military or other people, and we burnt our fingers to some extent. But then now the relations are in an upswing, despite in those years of bitterness China having come in and tried to build a port at Hananbota. But then such long relations cannot go waste, and India has stood firmly with its neighborhood first policy and given substantial amount of aid to bail Sri Lanka out of its economic crisis, when people did not have bread or rice to eat, when people were pushing their cars to petrol pump because there was no petrol. The value of the Sri Lankan rupees had dropped extensively. India gave a loan of more than $3.8 billion and wrote off more than half the amount in line of credit. So what is the background of this friendship and how deep-rooted is this friendship? Like I said, both the countries have reached an agreement to strengthen their economic and energy ties, signaling a new phase of cooperation and mutual benefits. Mind it, at this stage, only 4% of Sri Lankans have a negative view of India, which is the lowest of all countries. And then the two countries are close on economic terms to become Sri Lanka's largest trading partner, and an agreement to establish a proto single market is also under discussion at an advanced stage. There are deep ethnic and cultural links between the two countries. We share a maritime border, like I said, separated only by the Palk Strait. And Sri Lanka has a major position in the South Asia, and there is a common security umbrella in the Indian Ocean, and both the nations have been member of the Commonwealth of Nations. India has achieved the distinction of being the initial nation to submit its formal endorsement for the financial assistance and debt restructure proposal of Sri Lanka to the International Monetary Fund in a bid to foster and safeguard the Buddhist connection between these two countries. Our Prime Minister unveiled a grant assistance of $15 million during the Virtual Bilateral Summit in September 2020. This financial support is intended for various purposes, including the restoration and establishment of Buddhist monasteries, the education of young monks, the enhancement of interaction among the Buddhist scholars and clergy, the establishment of museums dedicated to Buddhist heritage, the facilitation of cultural exchanges, collaborative effect in archaeology, and the mutual showcasing of Buddhist relics. Then, during the COVID, India unconditionally supplied vaccines and medicines to Sri Lanka to bail it out of its crisis, because in Sri Lanka was at such a stage that it could neither manufacture the vaccine, neither buy it from other nations because of its economic downfall. And that was the time when Sri Lanka was going through a turmoil of economy, and India bailed it out, thus changing the mindset of the Sri Lankan people that yes, India is the true friend and not the others who have vested interests to put their money into their country. Then in July 2023, the Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe met Modi ji, and a vision was outlined for economic partner to strengthen the maritime, air, energy and interpersonal networks between these two countries to accelerate mutual cooperation in tourism, power, trade, higher education and skill development sector. Then also energy, petroleum were the aspects which were discussed, and with India's assistance, Sri Lanka has been able to blossom out of its crisis, and today even their Prime Minister says openly, and that includes the populace of Sri Lanka, that India is the steadfast friend and not the others. So in the face of acute financial and economic crisis, an extended help of $3.8 billion was given to Sri Lanka, and an agreement to supply $700 million worth of petroleum through a line of credit was done, and India bailed out Sri Lanka and it kept its words in the neighborhood first policy. So this is basically the relations between these two countries in a small nutshell. So please keep listening to us for such more geopolitical topics. Jai Hind.